Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to see everybody on a Friday, almost Valentine's Day. For those of you who are in the Valentine's Day mode, get your flowers soon because they run out really quick. So great to see everybody here today. We've got a great session lined up on the 13th of January or February. Boy, time is flying. That's hard to believe. It's almost March at this point. Hopefully everybody's doing really well today. Hopefully you had a great week, getting ready for a great weekend. If you're here in the United States, you may or may not have the day off Monday. So if you do, enjoy that long weekend. Um, Great agenda for today. So going to do a quick introduction, just about what we have up there. Talk about some of the past recordings, where to find those, all that fun stuff that we have. And we've got a special guest today. Liz Cox is on the phone. She's one of our CXE senior program managers. That's kind of like the customer-facing wing of the product group. If you ever worked with our CXE teams, you know they're fantastic out there. Really great knowledge. We're going to be talking about network security when it comes to compliance meets AI. So we'll have that on the list for today as well. Just some rules of the road. As always, microphones are muted currently, but feel free to use chat. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat window. We've got myself, we've got my good friend Ben on the phone as well to help monitor chat, answer any questions, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. As always, I'll be sending out the recordings of this after the call today. Give me a little time to process it. I'll have it sent out. Plus, any relevant links will be included in that email as well, and you'll have a link to the recording up on YouTube, so you'll be able to go back and view it at your leisure. Plus, you'll also have access to the rest of the recordings as well. I always include that link too. I will send a survey out, a short survey after this particular session. Please fill it out. It's really quick. Take you 2-3 minutes at the most. And that's really to help us guide where we're at, where we're going, new topics, things you may want to hear about moving forwards, and then just give us some feedback for how the actual sessions are going. It's really important to us. We want to make sure, this is an hour of your time that you're investing. So I want to make sure it's valuable to you as you go through. As always, we have our outstanding team behind us. Myself, if you haven't met me before, Jay Cotton. I'm a principal architect here at Microsoft. We also have Ben Perkins and Kevin Wee on the phone with us as well. They'll be helping to answer questions. They've done great presentations. Ben did a fantastic presentation on DLP 2 weeks ago. Just straight up data loss prevention. That was a fantastic session. If you haven't seen it, I'll drop those recordings, the link to all the recordings in there. I think Kevin did a fantastic session on insider risk management last night as well, or last week. So great content out there. And like I said, once I'm done talking, I turn it over to Liz. I will put the links to the recordings and everything else in the chat window for us. And just a reminder, speaking of past sessions, these are the sessions we've done so far. So we had great things around DSPM, Defender for data loss prevention. We had insider risk. And today, of course, we have the network protection, data protection from Liz. And then 2 weeks in a row, starting next week, we have 2 sessions based on agent governance. My good friend Nick Villa is going to be hosting those, or talking about that. He is a subject matter expert when it comes to all things agents, whether that is lightweight, low-code, no-code declarative agents, or even full-blown Copilot Studio full agents, or even in Foundry. So we're going to be talking about how we can govern and monitor those particular those agents as they run as well. Huge topic out there right now for everybody. I know it's pretty much what I talk about almost all day long right now. So please come to those sessions. Tell your peers to come in and join too. Anybody who works with agents or works in the data security part of it, it's going to be really fantastic sessions for them. So be aware of that one. Just a note, we have Coffee and Copilot going on as well. This is just more on the Copilot chat side of the house. I put this in here just because, as security people, we do need to know what our users are doing. And Copilot Chat in particular comes with every single license that's out there. So this is not a paid version of Copilot. If you have an M365 license, then you have access to Copilot Chat. So it's good to understand how people use it from my perspective. So please join those calls as well. They're great content. And plus, if you just want to learn a little bit about Copilot, how to use it, some best practices, it's fantastic sessions out there. And you'll even see my face on a couple of them. I tend to host those too as well. And then last thing to mention, everything we're talking about here today, whether that are in these sessions, whether that was DLP, insider risk, e-discovery, anything else, when it comes to Copilot and generative AI, Microsoft offers classes for all of these. We call them onboarding accelerators. They're really there to get you up and running, kickstart, get it up and running in the environment quickly, whether that's in test or in dev, or test or in prod. So they're great classes. They're hands-on, so hands-on learning. We usually have workshops along with them, so you can actually work in the workshops. in a sandbox environment as you go through, and then you can take that and transpose that over into your test and production environment. So if you don't know who to talk to your Microsoft account manager, or you can always reach out to me. I can help guide you to get you to the right person within Microsoft to help you get these classes scheduled and on the books. All right. That all being said, I'm going to turn it over to Liz. Liz, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me go ahead and take control. I think I've done it. Awesome. Well, hey, folks. My name's Liz Cox. As Jay was saying, I'm a product manager here at Microsoft. Oh, did you have a hand up there, Jay, or was that an accident?
That was an accident.
Okay. I was like, am I not audible? Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I'm a product manager here at Microsoft within our customer experience engineering team. So we work really closely with the product group, with the engineering group, as well as working really closely with different organizations to help them actually deploy these solutions, get their feedback, get their insights, and bring that back to the engineering team to actually build that into the product. And my specialization is really in extending Purview's capabilities to help secure and govern AI. And an area that I've been really focused on recently is the shadow AI space and how we can use Purview to help secure and govern AI that might be outside the trusted boundaries of your organization. But depending on the needs of your organization, you might still want to allow your users to use those things. So one of the ways we address that is through Purview network data security. So that's really kind of the focus here today. So I'll kind of start by just framing up the need for Purview network data security, why it's something that we felt like we had to develop, which I kind of gave you a little bit of the spoiler alert there, that Shadow AI was a big accelerator for us realizing we needed to kind of extend to that network layer. And then I'll talk about just, what network data security is, what use cases it covers, what some of those prerequisites are, and what the value you get out of it is. And then, I don't want to spend too much time in slides, so we will hop into Purview itself and take a look at what this actually looks like to configure within the Purview console itself. And I'll show you a few different things within Purview itself. And then I want to leave a lot of time for questions and everything at the end as well. One other call out about me, I am based in the UK, so anyone else who's maybe based outside the US doesn't have Monday off and it's a little later your time, understand that I might be the last thing between you and your weekend, so hopefully I will make it worthwhile for you. And if folks want to feel free to kind of put in the chat where they're joining from today, that'll be fantastic. Awesome. So jumping right in, I'm going to start with just a little bit of a step back, not too much, but just to make sure we're really grounded on why this might be an important need. And it's because we're in the era of AI today. We have been for a few years, but if you aren't kind of securing and governing AI yet, you're potentially behind. And visibility and control of sensitive data has never been more critical. And so we do see today 99% of organizations implementing controls to reduce the risks associated with generative AI usage, which is great. That is, that is much higher than it was just a couple of years ago. So organizations have really woken up to the fact that this is a need. But, we still see some organizations doing kind of the all or nothing approach, saying, actually, you can't use any of these AI tools. We're just going to shut it down, or you can only use a small subset of approved AI tools. And that certainly is an approach, but with how prevalent it is today and how much we're seeing users being able to get productivity out of it, it's really helpful if you can provide the access within your organization, but just have these security controls in place. Another statistic, 82% of security leaders cite sensitive data leakage as their top concern related to the use of generative AI. So that's just kind of even more evidence for it's great if we can allow users to use it as long as we have controls around that data leakage and data exfiltration. And then 86% of leaders believe that integrated data security solutions are more effective than disparate tools. And this might seem like kind of a random statistic I'm throwing at you right now, but it'll make sense as we go through it. Part of the value of extending Purview specifically to that network layer is now you're being able to get signals from different places and view it all in one place in Purview as your kind of unified control plane. So going to this next slide, kind of Purview here offers this vision of layered protection. Anyone who's been using Purview for a while or is familiar with Purview, it sounds like there's been a couple recent sessions in this series on Purview. Really where we started was with what we call, cloud DLP, really kind of your protections for your M365 apps. And lately we've extended that beyond M365 as well. So you've got things like Workday and Salesforce. So these line of business applications that your users are using every day, we have kind of app level protections in Purview. And so they're built natively into the app to ensure they're being used in a secure and governed manner, and that there's no data exfiltration kind of outside of the boundaries of your organization. But then the next thing that comes up is device level actions. Users could potentially offload sensitive data onto removable media, and then they have that, on a USB drive or something. So this kind of device level protection, that's why we developed things like endpoint data loss prevention within Purview. But those things are all still kind of in the controlled boundary of your organization. What happens when, today information workers are spending more and more of their time in the web, in browsers. And so we've also extended our protection to that browser layer, because a lot of times that browser layer is outside the boundary, the trusted boundary of your organization. But there's still a little bit of a gap that still exists there, even when we extend things to the browser layer. And that's when you have these unmanaged desktop applications or, unmanaged plugins. And that's where we really bring in that network level of protection. And all these layers work together to give you full comprehensive security and kind of block all those possible data exfiltration paths. So just to kind of make some of those scenarios a little bit more concrete, and I did mention, this is something that has come up a lot more in the era of generative AI. And one really common use case we've seen actually is generative AI plugins, and particularly within Office. So users might not really understand that they're even bringing that sensitive organization data outside the boundary of the organization, because they're actually just working in Office. They're working on a Word file, but they have a third-party unmanaged plugin that they ask to summarize the Word file or review the Word file. All of a sudden, that sensitive information is going to that generative AI plugin, and that is outside the boundary of your organization. And that is a data security incident in that case. Some other things we've seen is users leveraging things like Dropbox or Box as storage solutions, third-party storage solutions that are outside of the boundary of your organization, uploading sensitive files, sensitive information there. Similarly, kind of communications apps, maybe a user is used to using Slack to collaborate with a partner, but if they're typing sensitive information into Slack, that is then outside the boundary of your organization. Similarly, if they're leveraging generative AI, if they might go to ChatGPT in the web. And like I said, we do have web-based, browser-based protections to help you guard against that if you're leveraging that. But network can also help there. And then specifically, if, for example, a user downloaded ChatGPT, the desktop application, and was submitting sensitive prompts, then that network level protection comes in to ensure either audit or block that sensitive data exfiltration. Sorry, I think I might have, okay, I advanced the slide, sorry. So talking a little bit more about kind of how network data security works. So we do this by integrating Purview with different secure service edge or SASE providers. So kind of what that overall flow looks like is you have that SASE provider sitting in place at the network layer. Network traffic is flowing through there. But now if you integrate that with Purview, that network traffic is forwarded on to Purview. And Purview does that best-in-class classification to scan for sensitive information, sensitive files, and then runs that policy evaluation and sends that enforcement, or just takes the signal if it's an audit, sends that back. And so since you're also getting that signal into Purview then at that network layer, that will also connect to the different parts of Purview as well. So this can now, this is now in your audit logs. This can now be used for an e-discovery case if needed. This can be used as a signal for insider risk management. And then of course you have those blocking capabilities through data loss prevention. And so kind of on the left there, we have our top scenarios, just discovering, getting a sense for if sensitive data is being exfiltrated outside the trusted boundaries of your organization, and getting a general audit of the prompts and responses and how much users are navigating and using these unmanaged applications or navigating to generative AI in the web. So that's that discover piece and getting that visibility and monitoring. And then we have that protect piece, which is where you can actually block sensitive file uploads and actually block sensitive prompts from being sent to LLMs. So we'll take a look at what that looks like as well, how it looks like to configure that. And then that last piece, like I said, is that investigate. So we have the audit logs now, we have the signals, we can start to create an insider risk profile of high-risk users, or we can create an e-discovery case for legal investigations and holds. And so you can see here at the top, when it comes to what SASE providers we actually integrate with, we have kind of 3 today. We integrate with Entra GSA, which is our first party offering, of course. And then we have an integration with Netscope as well as with iBoss. We are also looking at kind of future SASE integrations, and actually there's one kind of in the works right now that I won't share the name of today, but if you're interested in this feature, you have a different SASE provider that you're using, please feel free to kind of put that in the chat. That is great feedback for me to kind of take back to the team what SASE providers we should look at integrating with, and if it's one of the ones that we're hoping to release soon, then I can follow up with you as well on that. So talking a little bit more about these kind of specific integrations and some call outs kind of here. For our integration with Entra GSA, we have this network file filtering option. So this is us being able to block sensitive file uploads. And that could be a file that's deemed sensitive because it has a sensitivity label that you're trying to block sharing of, or because we've found sensitive information within that file. So we do actually do that file inspection there. And then, like I said, on the third-party side, support for Netscope and iBoss. And for Netscope and iBoss, both today, we have the ability to block sensitive file upload and sharing, as well as block sensitive text uploads. So that could be a prompt to generative AI, or that could be that could also be, you know, a sensitive chat sent in a communications app. So pretty comprehensive support for these 3 today. I will say in terms of additional SASE providers that we're offering, the general rollout is we usually support discovery first, so that auditing capability, and then as the features in market a little bit longer, then we have support for that blocking protection type capability. And you might be wondering, okay, so how do I actually integrate my Purview instance with these SASE providers? And there's kind of 3 high-level steps, of course, some nuances within them. But the first is just making the 2 instances aware of each other. So if you're using Netscope, on the Netscope side as well as on the Purview side, you want to make the 2 instances aware of each other. For Entra, in most cases, this is already taken care of, so you get to skip step one. But a lot of times you're going to need your M365 tenant administrator or your global administrator involved in this. And that's actually a theme you'll see as well. This is kind of a team sport, often a lot of collaboration across data security teams and network teams as well. So that second step is configuring your traffic acquisition. So actually forwarding on your network traffic from your SASE provider to Purview so that evaluation can be done, that evaluation and enforcement can be done on the Purview side. And then third, which we will take a look at live today, is actually setting up your Purview policies at the network layer. So just a few, I won't drain this slide too much, but I don't want to make it seem like it's too easy to set up this integration, because of course those 3 easy steps all have some nuances in them, and we already kind of talked about how this will be a team effort, oftentimes coordination across a couple different teams. And just a couple call outs on other potential prerequisites. So for Entra GSA, this does leverage the Entra GSA internet access feature. So you will need to be licensed for Entra internet access. And kind of overall, the setup within Entra at a high level looks like creating that internet access profile, enabling that, ensuring the GSA client is installed on your end user devices, creating a TLS inspection policy, and then creating a file policy that has a specific scan with Purview action. This is all out there in documentation that we'll share afterwards as well. And then lastly, linking your security profiles with your TLS inspection and file policies, and then ensuring there's a conditional access policy linked to that security profile as well. On the third-party side, again, generally, you will need to have a global administrator enabling that integration between the 2 instances. And then additional licensing may be required by the partner. It kind of depends on the SASE provider. And then there might be additional policies set up and config on that side as well. At least on the Netscope side, it's pretty straightforward. So not too much to do there. And then on the Purview side, like I said, we are going to take a look at what it actually looks like to configure those policies today. So I will show you that live within Purview. And this is also a pay-as-you-go feature. So it's a consumptive meter. It's that in-transit protection meter. You can actually estimate that today using the Azure pricing calculator. But the idea here is you will be paying for the data that you ingest. We'll look at the policies today, but you can scope it based on the needs of your organization. And also on the SASE side, you can generally scope what traffic you're actually going to be forwarding on. But if you're ingesting tons and tons of records into Purview, that will be kind of more cost than if you just have a more scoped set of records you're ingesting there. And then I think I just have maybe just one more slide before I get into the actual demo. But we talked about this a little bit before, but I just want to call out that now that you're leveraging this, I'm going to show you 2 things in the Purview portal. I'm going to show you what it looks like to create that data loss prevention policy that can either audit or block these events. But I'll also show you what it looks like to create the collection policy. And when you create collection policies, this means you're getting signals into these different interactions that are happening at the network layer, and that will feed the reporting that we have in solutions like data security posture management, so you can understand your overall risk profile. This means you have your audit logs for things like e-discovery and data lifecycle management. You can apply communication compliance policies now to these interactions, specifically these generative AI interactions. You can do things like detect unethical AI usage, detect prompt injection attacks, and then you can also use these signals to kind of correlate the overall insider risk profile of a user in insider risk management. So with that, I'm going to take full control and hop into the Purview portal. And like I said, there's a few different things I'm going to show you. Namely, I'm going to show you kind of the collection policy as well as the data loss prevention policy. And we'll actually start really quickly by going to data security posture management, because you can also, within data security posture management or within DSPM for AI, and some of you might have already done this before, you can also enable a one-click collection policy that will start capturing prompts and responses at the network layer through just one click. So if I go to setup tasks, this might take us a second to load in my environment. But what we'll see here is we'll see a one-click collection policy that's called Extend AI Insights to the Network Layer. So extend insights into sensitive data in AI app interactions. And we have this new option of detecting sensitive info shared with AI via the network. So if I enable this one-click collection policy, this will be scoped to all sensitive information types, and this will start capturing prompt and response data found at the network layer. But if I want to go through and create my own collection policy, I'll show you what that looks like. So if I navigate to data loss prevention and go to collection policies, and again, the benefit of kind of creating a collection policy rather than a data loss prevention policy is because I want to use kind of these signals in other parts of Purview. Maybe I want to actually capture the full prompt and response data when it comes to those generative AI interactions. So you'll have kind of the normal naming and description of the collection policy. And then I can add my conditions. And so in this case, I'll take the content contains. And this is where I can go through and scope down to specific classifiers, or I can choose all my classifiers. So here I have kind of all those out of the box sensitive information types. If you are wanting to capture content, which means capture the full prompt and response content, which you might want for your audit trail and for investigation purposes, you will have to scope to all classifiers. If you don't care about capturing the content, you just want to know an interaction happened and it contained this sensitive information type, then you can scope down depending on what you want to do there. And the activities I'll detect in this case are the text center shared with cloud or AI apps. That's kind of the prompt, or like I said in Slack, a message sent, file uploaded, text received, so a lot of times the response, and then file downloaded. And again, I can choose some or all of these activities. And then in terms of where to apply, we're going to take advantage here of the unmanaged cloud apps. So that is what the network layer supports. So that's 34K unmanaged cloud apps. So you can see we have a large catalog here across a lot of different categories, including generative AI and collaboration apps, social media apps, etc. So I can come through and select these, or I can kind of scope it down based on category. But a lot of times what we'll see folks do is leverage our adaptive app scopes. So these are kind of dynamic categories that you might be interested in governing. So I'll take advantage here of the unmanaged AI apps. So we have things like Claude, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, DeepSeek, and a whole bunch more. We also have, our unmanaged collaboration apps, unmanaged cloud storage apps, unmanaged webmail apps, as well as unmanaged social network apps. And then this is the piece I was talking about there, where you can choose if you want to capture the full content of the prompt and response for your audit trail, or if you just want to know the AI interaction happened and what sensitive data was linked with it, as well as the user metadata, the app metadata. But since I scoped to all classifiers, I can go ahead and capture content. And then what we're talking about today is the network layer. So again, this is going to work through that integration with those SASE providers. You can also capture this content through controls built directly into the Edge for Business browser as well. So you can turn both of those on for kind of that layered protection strategy, or just turn one or the other on. And then you can choose if I want to turn this policy on right away or keep off for now. So what that will do, and we'll look at the end results in a bit, but again, it'll capture these signals. So I can go to Activity Explorer, either within DLP or within DSPM or DSPM for AI. And if I've chosen to capture that content, then I can open up these interactions and see the full prompt and response data, given I have the right permissions, which is pretty high rights permissions to actually view that content. Then that's now captured in my audit logs as well, if I need that for compliance reporting or investigations later on. So that's collection policies. And again, it's really about those signal consuming solutions is often why you'd want to create collection policies. If you're just kind of worried about either the block, so protecting that, or just getting that audit for your data loss prevention alerts, then you can do the data loss prevention policies. So I'll take you through kind of what that looks like. It is a similar experience, but there are kind of a few differences as we go through. And so you'll use this new option here of inline web traffic. I can't even tell if I selected the right thing, so let me do that again. So you'll leverage the inline web traffic there. And DLP policies do give you the option to create DLP policy templates, but I will go ahead and show you what it looks like to create a custom policy here. And you have that name and description. And then really similarly, you'll now get to choose what apps you want supported in your policy. You can scope the policy to this. And again, we have 34K unmanaged cloud apps that we support here. And you can also take advantage of these adopted app scopes. So these kind of dynamic groups of apps here. So we'll go through and select those. And then again, you get to choose where you want to enforce this policy. We're talking a lot about network today, but also kind of part of our inline web traffic stack is this Edge for Business. So if you do want that layered protection strategy, you can have both of these enforcement options on. And then again, you can leverage templates, but I'll show you what it looks like to create or customize these advanced DLP rules. And in this case, I have a few different options here. So I have several different conditions I can use here as part of this rule. Content contains is a very common one. That's what we'll take a look at. But also to call out, you have these different file conditions and also insider risk level for adaptive protection is. So if you just want to potentially scope this to your higher risk users, you can do that as well. And of course, there's and or statements, so you can do a mix and match of these things as well. And here I can choose what I want to scope this to: sensitive info types, sensitivity labels, trainable classifiers. And so in this case, I'll go ahead and actually select a sensitivity label and do anything kind of related to highly sensitive information within my organization. And then the action here is restrict browser and network activities. And let me actually go ahead and add a sensitive information type as well, so we can take a look at the text upload and text download piece. But you can see here, you can either audit these events or choose to fully block them as well. And so You've got that text sent, text received, file uploaded, and file received. And then that last step, of course, is if you want to create the policy, leave it turned off, turn the policy on immediately. Or you also, for DLP policies, have the option to run the policy in simulation mode, which means that no impact, you'll just get the alerts and understand kind of what's happening with your policy. So if we can kind of pull up the slides again, Jay.
Can
I'm
do.
going to switch back to that. Do I have to stop sharing?
Nope. I think I've got it.
Oh, great.
And all you need to do is just take control and fast forward. You can flip all the way over. In fact, which slide are we looking at? There you go.
Let's see. Yeah. Awesome. So just wanted to show you folks a quick example of kind of what these things we configured end up looking like once they actually go into effect, and you have your SASE set up and everything as well. So the first thing we had looked at was that collection policy, again, getting the signal of what's happening. And so here in data loss prevention, we've navigated to Activity Explorer, and we get some information about a prompt that was sent to ChatGPT. So we get that app metadata. We understand when this AI interaction happened, what sensitive info types are involved, what user was involved, etc. So I can go forward and investigate that if I want. If I also have an insider risk management policy linked up to this, I can, this will also kind of feed the overall insider risk profile of that user then. And then when it comes to the data loss prevention and actually blocking capability, one of those things I was talking about, really common scenario now, is these generative AI plugins within Office. So here we have that a sensitive file here that has intellectual property related to the organization. And now this user is going to try to use this generative AI plugin, which of course would leak that sensitive information outside of the trusted boundaries of the organization. So since we do have that DLP policy in place with the blocking capability, once the user actually tries to scan this Word doc with this unmanaged AI plugin, they'll be blocked from doing that and be alerted that this is a non-compliant action. And then, of course, you'll also get information about that within your DLP alerts. And actually, these alerts also flow into Defender XDR as well for your security teams to have that single place where they see all the alerts they need to investigate. So that was kind of your crash course on network data security and kind of what you can do with it, what it is, why it's important, and those different components of it in terms of the discovery, the protection, the investigation, and those different SASE providers that we integrate with. We have a bunch more resources out there, just kind of a general overview of network data security on our docs, and then specifically how it can be used for that unmanaged cloud apps, specifically unmanaged AI apps via the network, and kind of how that can be used. And then docs on kind of Entra GSA, how to get started with that integration, especially if you're already using GSA, and especially if you're already using internet access. It's a little bit of a no-brainer, I'd like to say, to kind of turn Purview on. That is in public preview today, so that actually is not part of the consumptive pricing today. That's just included in E5. So if that's something you want to try out, not a lot of reasons not to. And then we also have documentation there on our third-party SASE providers, iBoss and Netscope. And I haven't gotten a chance to look at the chat yet, but excited to see if there's any other SASE providers you folks are using today, if you are interested in kind of integrating that with Purview then.
Somebody did mention Zscaler.
Okay, nice. Yeah, Zscaler is definitely one we hear about a lot. That's actually not on our roadmap right now. But always good to kind of hear that feedback as well. Awesome. Well, I will go ahead and open it up for questions. Like I said, I haven't looked through the chat yet. I can pop in there, but first I'll just open it up for if anyone wants to come off mute and ask a question.
Yeah, and the chat's all good too, Liz. We had a couple questions, but we took care of those. And I've been dropping all the
Fantastic.
recordings, all the links that you have on here into the chat as we go. So everybody should have those. But
Incredible.
yes, open up the floor. Anybody have any questions for Liz? Going once, going twice. Everybody's Friday. Awesome.
Ready
Okay. Well, big hand of round of
for a
applause
long
for Liz.
weekend.
Thank you so much, Liz. Great session. Really appreciate you taking your time today. And thank you to everyone else on the call for joining as well. I will be sending out the recording plus all these links that we pasted in, plus anyone else is in there. So those will be in your inbox as quickly as I can get them there. And don't forget, everybody, 2 sessions coming up on agents. So the first session is going to be governance of low code, no code agents. So what we call declarative agents or Copilot Studio Lite, depending on which documentation you read these days. And then the second session is going to be on Copilot Studio, the full license version, Power Platform, and of course, Azure Foundry agents as well. So thank you all so much. Yes, I will be getting that one. That last one, there's a question about when I was sick about the Defender for Cloud Applications. I will be sending out a separate email so everybody can register for that one. That'll be coming up after the agents series session. So thank you so much, everybody. And big hand of applause. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it, you guys. And everybody have a great rest of the day. And everybody have a great rest of your week. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, folks.